Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. You are in the land of YouTube, so you could be watching this anytime, any place. You could be in your bath, you could be in the garden, you could be in your dressing gown, you could be in the car if you've got it plugged in order and you're not watching the screen. Whatever you're up to, we have on the show today, as always, my partner in crime, Carlo van der Watering. Good afternoon, Carlo.
Afternoon. It's 7:05 in the evening, mate.
Ooh, it
you
depends
can tell the people that have not been working, can't you?
Who knows when people are watching it, Carlo? Who knows?
Well, no, that's true.
This is going out on Tuesday as well, so we've got to pretend it's Tuesday. So, what a lovely Tuesday afternoon.
Chris, just mention where I'm from, then you've done it, and then things are easier.
Carlo is from Holland.
Yes.
I'll say I've done it. Is that all right?
And you play Sunday League football, don't you?
I do. So that's done. We don't have to cover that bit. I play Sunday League very well. I know Adam. I'll introduce Adam first. We'll talk about his Sunday League career. Also on the show, we have BBC Radio Sheffield, Adam Oxley. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, Adam. How are you? Are you all right?
Yeah, good. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me again.
No, it's all right. We've just touched on Sunday League, Adam. I used to work with an English teacher called Andy Lloyd, who I believe is a teammate who plays at CAG FC.
Yeah, that was my my five-a-side team, which is still going, and of course we can't play at the minute, so that I'm missing that as much as not being able to watch or commentate or anything else. Five-a-side for me, a couple of nights a week is huge, both physical and mental health. I know we'll get onto that in a bit, but yeah, Sunday League I gave up when I was 29. Played the last couple of years in the Rotherham Sunday League,
right?
Yellow Lion of Greesborough, which was the highest level I'd ever played at. So nice. There you go. That's where
you like playing in horrible colours, didn't you? Because I'm assuming Yellow Lion played in yellow and CAG play in orange.
Don't ditch the orange.
Yellow and black.
Yellow and black. He's got it in again, look. Orange, yeah, all right. Holland play. Did you watch? Are you watching Euros, Adam? Did you watch England versus Holland? That were only last week. I just wondered if you watched any of it.
It's kind of. I've not guessed.
Adam, we spoke to you 2 months ago, very much at the beginning of the whole COVID-19 pandemic. And we touched, I listened back to it today, we touched on the fact that some people might lose their jobs and some families would be impacted. Am I right in thinking we're around 37,000 people have lost their lives to this pandemic? There is a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel where I think from next week or the week after, bigger groups of people can meet outside. But it's been, I'll talk to myself first. It's been a huge struggle. I think the change from what was normal to your new normal, which for me means sitting inside 24/7 because I have to shield. So working from the kitchen table, taking a break in Casala by garden, then having going to the front room in to have a beer, and then go down to the guest room to go to sleep on a night. That's had a huge impact. That, just when you find yourself getting used to that, I'm now getting a bit fearful of what is the new normal. How have you experienced this whole COVID situation? Because obviously you have been working. We know you're presenting on BBC Radio Sheffield. How have you been looking after yourself?
It's a really interesting one, and for everyone, essentially at the minute, you've got such conflicting views because you want life to try to return to some semblance of what it was like before all this kicked off. And like you said, so many people, so many families that can't happen to. You know, my heart goes out to anybody that's lost anybody. You know, that I've got sort of friends in walking groups, one that passed away during this time, and I know hardly anybody could go to the funeral and anything like that. So that's just horrendous. So yeah, you know, you've got people that you want to look at that, but then you look forward and you're mindful of not trying to return too soon, and you know what's right and what's wrong. Nobody really knows. You know, whether you think the government's done the right thing or the wrong thing. You know, only history really in time will we know what was right and what was wrong at the moment. I think for all of us, the ability to see people more outside, it's going to be huge. Up to 6 people from next week in an outside setting.
Oh, that's good. Rotherham will be able to play at home, won't they?
Yeah. Well, that's disgraceful, that, Chris.
I'm joking. It's a joke.
And you're already joshing with the Millers. I mean, that's yeah, but you know, I mean, I've this week one of the few positives, if you can go through, of lockdown is I've been able to get some great opportunities with Radio Sheffield. Yeah, we've not done the sport that we'd love to do. You know, we're all missing football heaven and the sports shows and everything else. The BBC's had to look at its schedules, you know, with reduced numbers of people in the office and think about different things. I've been presenting our afternoon show this week, which is something I'd never thought I'd be able to do. So yeah, I'd been doing the government's daily briefing live today when that was going out, so listening to that and doing various quizzes and games on air. So that's been quite good. But you know, the fact that we're now going to be able to see people a little bit more out and about is huge. You know, my mum's shielding because of previous health conditions. I've taken shopping round to help out, but you know, I've not hugged my mum for however many months. And what at least I think that what it shows at the minute is that hopefully over the next few weeks we're going to be able to start to see people a little bit more, and whatever it looks like, it will be another new normal, and I don't think life will ever be the same again. But I suspect the country will fall back into some routines easier than people are saying, just because people are creatures of habit.
Yeah. How important has work been to you? I know a lot of people that have found it a lot harder not being able to go to work. So in a way, I'm happy that I've been working from home before it all started. How important has it been? Because that's been my one constant and something I have to get up because I have to do this. You know, I have a video conference at 9. I've got this to do. I've got that to do. How important has work been for you to keep your mind occupied?
Huge. Absolutely huge for me. Very different, obviously, to what I'm used to. A normal week a few months ago was press conferences and games and doing phone-ins and shows and all that kind of stuff, whereas now it's been some days working from home, some days in the office, although limited numbers at Radio Sheffield at the minute due to social distancing and very limited. They've completely remodeled the floor plan basically to ensure that everything meets the right standards. But I've been working on different shows. I've been producing shows, presenting shows, helping out with bits and pieces of sport as different bits of news has happened. But that ability to do that has been great. You know, I've had some bits of time off on leave, and once you've done the garden and you've sorted out the bills and the admin and whatever else, and sorted out some stuff at home, you know, I've had other things going in my personal life that have taken it up, which whatever else. But you get to a point where it's like, oh right, well, what do I do now? And without that, if I'd have literally I'd have been furloughed and not been a journalist or classed as key workers, so not been a key worker, then spending hours, you'd probably see me going stir crackers, which from a mental health perspective would have challenged me, whereas I've been challenged from a mental health perspective in other ways.
Yeah. Chris?
You're looking well, Adam. Your beard looks really tidy. Have you been cutting your own hair? Your hair looks lovely.
Credit to the good lady wife for the trim a few weeks ago. First time she's ever cut hair, and she did a remarkable job. And I'm somebody that does spend a little bit on an haircut. I'll tell you how much, but I'm glad you're both sitting down. It's over 20 quid I pay for a haircut.
Oh my goodness!
I got a yearly subscription for that.
I know. I told you to be sitting down. I told you to be sitting down. One of the very few treats in life that I treat myself to is a haircut every now and again. But no, she did a superb job. But yeah, no, little things like that. I mean, before I had ears lowered a few weeks ago. It was getting to the point I was getting very frustrated. But
mine's getting there now. I can just feel it bothering me. It's just little things like that, isn't it? It's not even a big deal. It's just the little things like my hair's bothering me, or I've not been able to go in work as of yet due to COVID. I'm hoping I can go back in at some point next week. After this week off. I don't know what, crazy. But yeah, I would like that bit of normality back, really. I know Carlo's been lucky enough to have it. He likes to complain. He is the busiest man in Barnsley, but he loves his job, really. And I've seen a tweet today, actually, Carlo, while I'm on that. I've seen a tweet from Remedy today that you are doing a wonderful job. So I just want to say how proud I am of you as a friend for keeping fighting and battling for Barnsley and everything good about it. And even a clap for Adam.
Thank you. I think being a Barnsley fan is very much supporting the underdog, and I get huge, satisfaction in my job. Yesterday, an hour on the phone doing a one-to-one workshop with a young person at risk of child criminal exploitation, and just having a phone call and talking very openly and candidly, and then getting an email back saying, he was on the phone for an hour. We can't get his sort of like, attention or whatever for 5 or 10 minutes. So knowing that hopefully even just a small message, I find there's no better reason to get up in the morning than that one. And that's for me, of course. So yeah, it's always nice when your employer then obviously sends it out. Can I say as well, for a charity that we are, I get a care package through the post every week. That might be a jiffy bag with a couple of sachets of coffee and tea and a biscuit. Last week, we all received a shoebox with a stress ball, a fidget spinner, a bath bomb, some bands. Because what they're saying is, it's the only way at the moment they can really show the appreciation. And, we're contracted local authorities, so key workers. And I just think, again, if your employer does that for you, it makes you feel that, and it helps, doesn't it, with your mental health? It helps, because I sometimes sit and I've done my work and I put my laptops away, and my wife will say, "What are you going to do now?" I says, "I just don't know," because there's nowhere to switch off. Yeah. Normally I drive and then you wind down. Normally I think Saturday, we've got Stoke at home, got a bit of a chance here, and now, I mean, I'm not bothered. I'm not bothered about the league in Kazakhstan or in Germany, because I'm not. That's what matters. That's what matters to me. And it's I had huge satisfaction watching him train this week. Kenny Dougal's haircut. Now, normally I'd have rung praise or grumble. I've spoke to Adam about what's happening with Kenny Dougal. But the little things we have to look forward to at the moment, isn't it?
There you go, Adam. Your haircut is good, but if you were to come on the show next time with it bleached blonde, you would take the biscuit. That'd be amazing. I would love that. Adam Oxley.
I've not thought about that. Having the buzz cut and going that was a genuine consideration to get rid of it all. But no, bleaching it, no, not for me.
What would Giddins have to say about that? What do you think his initial reaction would be? What would your colleagues say? Would they like that?
He would. Andy would normally probably look at me in disgust, really. If I walked in with that. I think other people would find it funny. I think he'd look at me in some kind of disgust.
Yeah.
Obviously, we talked about the situation with COVID. The social distancing is obviously keeping that in place, but relaxing the rules on how many people you can meet. But on a football front, okay, the Premier League is starting. We know that. We don't know anything about about the Championship yet. Does it worry you, because you're a sports journalist, aren't you, for BBC Radio Sheffield? Does it worry you that, because matches might take place and you might be there commentating on the match, but for a long time it's not going to be like it used to be, where we might meet up in the press, in the press room at Barnsley, and Chris eats all the sandwiches before anybody else can get to him. You know it. Does it worry you, or is it about, as long as it's back, it's the first step?
I think, like every football fan, my views on this are varied and complex. I don't think there's an easy way. I think people that can try and get their opinion on this across in, say, 280 characters on Twitter, good luck to you, pal. Good luck to you. I think essentially for me, my preference would would have been, I said this on Football Heaven a few times, that we waited entirely until we could get supporters back in the stadium, and we finished the current season in all leagues whenever we could, whether that's September, December, next year. That was what I wanted. Now, clearly, football is a complex beast from very perspective scheduling, both in this country, across Europe, across the world, with the tournaments that's going on, and of course the big driver financially. And essentially that is what is driving a lot of it. And at the moment, there is the potential, obviously, to get the top 2 tiers in England finished, potentially by the end of July, early August, with then a potential of 3-4 week break. Well, for August, then with a potential 3 or 4 week break, and then the new season up and running. Now, that would keep the continuity in terms of the seasons going. Obviously, there's lots of frustration, particularly from clubs in League One, League Two and below, that it looks like League One and League Two is going to be finished on a points per game system. Those votes are still to come. Obviously, we have Rotherham, Doncaster in that for League One. Rotherham, on that case, would get promoted, which would be great for them.
Brilliant. I know I had a dig at Millers earlier, but really, that'd be brilliant for the town. I live in Wath. Wath's classed as Rotherham. I work in Rotherham. Brilliant town. I think they run the football club the right way, and that would be amazing for them. I know it don't suit everybody.
No, absolutely, and that's where we're getting to. Because obviously Sheffield United at the minute, at 17th of June, Premier League's back. All 92 games are going to be shown on TV, with a lot on free to air, which I think is that's a help for supporters that can't go, because we'd all want supporters there. It'll be, we don't know how many journalists are going to be able to go. We don't know how many of us are going to be able to go, what games we'll be able to cover, how we'll cover them. But I've not got no fears on that from a mental health, from a health perspective, because football will probably be about as safe as anywhere. They'll make sure that it is. They'll make sure, there's like guidance documents for the Bundesliga where over 100 pages, I think, and stuff like that. So I'm not particularly worried about that. But obviously the Premier League now, there's a plan there. As long as they get everything in place, the games are going to finish. Championship is running about a week to 2 weeks behind in terms of the training schedules. At the moment, it looks like there's a good chance that the Championship will finish and will play its games, as long as, you know, the R rate that we've been hearing about and the number of deaths and all that keep going in the right direction. And of course, from a Barnsley perspective, that's crucial, because if Barnsley have got any chance of staying in the Championship, they need to finish the season. And of course, it certainly looks like if, for whatever reason, that doesn't happen, then you would suspect that 51% of the clubs of the Championship would vote for points per game to go through. Yeah. You know, I know that Barnsley have put this letter out this week that's raised a number of issues. You know, the clubs that are facing EFL charges, the misconduct stuff, Wednesday and Derby and Birmingham, that have got stuff in there. I know that's a board of contention with Barnsley board, and obviously fans will have their own views on that. And of course, Sheffield Wednesday, big team in our patch. But equally, mentions of sporting integrity, and is it right to finish the season in this way? I mean, I've seen sporting integrity argued from both perspectives. Yeah. You know, is it right that you play so many games in a season and it's abandoned, or is it right that you finish the season the last 20% with some kind of metric like points per game, so that it is complex? I want to see the season finished. I think null and void for me is an absolute. I don't like null and void, because I just think there's been that much of the season gone for all the teams, all the effort, everything else, that it needs to have a resolution. But unfortunately for Barnsley at the minute, like I said, it seems to me there's two options. The season plays out, and a 7 point needs to be climbed, shall we say? Which I know that the Barnsley statement made it out that was, it sounded like a reasonable gap. Oh, there's only a 7 point gap, I think was what it said in the letter. Well, the 7 point gap in the Championship, and this is Barnsley, as we've seen, who have fought admirably this year, but are up against some very big fishes. So it's either play the games or Barnsley are down, from what I can see. And that appeared to me to be what the options are for the club. Yeah,
it's a worrying thing, isn't it? Because I completely, there's been almost like unity on social media. There's there is a percentage of fans that don't trust the board, that don't like the board. Today, I had to put a comment again when somebody says, Chenley has 12 billion in the bank. I says, but he can't just put it in our bank account because then we become one of the clubs that go against the EFL rules. So you can't just do that. Why not? Other clubs do it. Well, but I get completely, looking back over the past 10, 15 seasons, Barnsley 2016, bottom of Christmas, with 9 matches to go, we were nowhere near. But we ended up, and I suppose the reason we love this game is because we've seen us, we talked to Martin Aveni, we've seen us take on teams and scrape a 1-0 win. Fantastic. We've also seen that team play against Carlisle on a Tuesday night and been absolutely scandalous. And that's why we love it, because it's so unpredictable.
Yeah, I honestly wouldn't put it past Barnsley staying up one little bit. You know, I've covered the Reds now since 2008 on a regular basis. And I've been party to a variety of Houdini acts in staying up the Championship a few times. Some late drama and some runs and cut runs and playoffs and everything else. And the club's got a great spirit and a great energy and some great players. And it has got that underdog tag, like you were saying earlier, Carlo. Yeah. And they could well do it. They could well do it. I mean, it's going to be bizarre these next few weeks. But potentially we're going to have Sheffield United, Sheffield Wednesday and Barnsley playing out their seasons. Wednesday, admittedly, haven't got a great deal to play for. They're stuck in the middle of the Championship, unless, for whatever reason, their situation with the EFL goes against them and potentially they do get dock points, and then that becomes interesting. Barnsley, of course, battling to stay up, and Sheffield United, of course, battling to try and continue what they're doing and potentially get that European place, which just seemed ridiculous at the start of the season. So there's lots to go at, and it'll be a really exciting time as an area. But you've just got all this, will the season finish?
Yeah.
And at any point, any point we might see that rate rise and anything else, and it might be off before we start, and then we're back to square one. So you're in this big mix where we just don't know, and we're just going to have to take it little bit by bit.
Yeah. Before I hand over to Chris, it's a little bit like somebody said to me today, the year has gone like this: January, February, March, Christmas. That's what it'll almost feel like, because nothing else has happened. I do not, even as a Barnsley fan, if you look back at the season 2019-2020, let me just put on record, and this will go on YouTube, but as a football fan, what Sheffield United have done, getting promoted, and the type of football they play. When you talk about the stars aligning, I think it's not a fluke. That wasn't meant to be. They've worked for that. I think they've got the right manager, the right mix of players with young talent, with some established players. And if this season, for whatever, fizzles out for them, that has to be, for me, the sporting achievement of the season. I mean, we dream about staying up. They stayed up, they went up, and then they conquered by playing football and not veering away from the way they normally play. So I know a lot of Barnsley fans say null and void. No, you know what? Let's play it. Let's play it behind closed doors. And if we go down, then we deserve to go down, because as a team, we haven't got enough points. My belief in the back of my head keeps saying, under Gerhard Struber, we got substantial more points per game. And I think we need to give him a chance to see how he can motivate these players. I think he's got it in him. And the luck we've got is we've still got to play 3 of those teams around us. And then, so even if I can't be there from a press perspective, I will sleep a little bit easier if I know that we've played for it and it didn't work, or we played for it and it did work. But not knowing is just, it's there, isn't it? It just eats you up.
It's hard, isn't it? Because all the way through this, I've seen so many people with throwaway comments on Twitter that basically say, oh, football doesn't matter. It's not important. What's important is what's going on in the country, the people that are working, the people in the health services. And, of course, in one respect, they are absolutely right. Said it on air numerous times. I said it last time. Football is not as important as life or death or anything like that. But you cannot say that football isn't important on the flip side of it. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's something that we all care about, whether it's playing, whether it's watching, whether it's talking about it. We've all seen that. Different aspects of the game matter so much more to different people. For me, that sense of, community and togetherness, the ability for me to turn up and play with my mates on a weekly basis, to go to a game, to watch it, to interact. You take away the thing that is, your sport, your hobby, and all that, and it's tough, and it's really tough. But you do have that caveat all the time, and anybody that tries to sort of take that away is, it's a lot more. The two things can coexist at the same thing, and that's what a lot of people don't seem to get their head around.
Yeah,
the Reds and Gerhard Struber, I like the guy. He's got a cracking personality. It's been lovely to catch up with him a few times during lockdown. Barnsley's been great at setting up some player interviews and some manager interviews that we, us and Doug from the Chronicle and Leon from the Yorkshire Post and whoever, and Joe from they've all got involved with, and that's been nice because the people that I see you guys and I see them on a weekly basis, and the people that you don't see, it's another little community of people.
Yeah. And don't forget, people like, we've had Andy Clark on, who's now the media guy at Barnsley FC. That's his living, that's his job. Andy White, Whitey. Lots of people within the club. Talk about the club photographers, freelance photographers that make a living.
Anniversary, so yeah.
Yeah, so there's lots. Chris?
Well, we've covered loads, haven't we? Yeah, it's absolute unprecedented times. We've mentioned the letter, Adam, that was sent to the FL, and it's been sent obviously to all the other clubs in the Championship. Something like that never really been done before. That's unprecedented ground, isn't it? We're walking into the unknown. I don't know if it's appropriate for you to answer. Where do you sit on all that? We mentioned integrity in terms of football. Again, before, when we were in Championship, we got relegated. We stayed up at the cost of Bolton, who were clearly breaching financial fair play at that time. And by the time they got punished, it was too late for Barnsley, and they were in League One, and they've been relegated. So I guess my question to you is, should they really be punished for that season that they have breached them rules? Because they're breaching the rules against the other teams, aren't they, at that minute in time? And next season's probably too late. And I mean, they've got a bit more time now to try and get it right. But do you see, there's a question in there, I think.
There is. No. There's various aspects to that. One is around governance. And I think that clearly football's governance isn't clear enough or strong enough, because it's not able to deal with all these different complex matters very well. Seems to, at times, it comes across like, I don't know, the authorities are potentially just making things up as they go along. I'm not saying that's what happens, but there's potentially a perception that because the regulations aren't strong enough, they're not clear enough.
Yeah.
Of course, the EFL is made up of its members, which is its clubs. The Premier League is made of its members and its clubs. And which leads on to my second point, that you're obviously going to fight for your own club. And that perspective, I hazard a guess that the majority of football fans and their views on what should happen with this season, what should happen with football finance, what should happen going on, is swayed or led by what's going to happen to their team. It's very difficult to get to take your club shirt off, as you are both kindly demonstrating today.
I'm not taking it off.
Well, yeah, that would take the call off in a totally different matter. I haven't making a podcast before, so yeah, well, let's leave that one. But yeah, it's very difficult to take that off and have a view for the game. And everybody talks about what's right for sport integrity, what's right for the game, what's all this, what right and wrong and everything else. But because there's nothing written that enables us to do that, of course Barnsley are going to come out fighting with a letter that says these kind of things, and they're going to argue their case, and they're going to say that. But so are every other team. We'll see it in League One. League One's going to be fascinating the next few weeks, as this vote happens. Likely, I understand, to be next week now that the vote takes place. There's been some discussions this week, but you've got this group of teams that are like, no, we must finish the season. We have to finish the season. Nothing else will stand. Well, unsurprisingly, they're the group of teams that are just outside the playoffs that, if it's decided on points per games, won't get in. The teams that are due to go down, well, we must finish the season. But then you've got that big group of teams in the middle that are not going up or down, that are probably just going to go, yeah, Let's just finish the season points per game. You've got the teams that are in the playoffs and up the top, they're going to say that. So that's why, to me, that's why it looks like the EFL have set the bar at 51% majority in each division, because it means that essentially in League One, you've got 23 teams. So all you need is 12 of those 23 teams to go, yes, finish the season, and it's done.
Yeah.
Somebody came.
Yeah, my point on that is essentially just like I said, that it's hard to take away that vested interest with your own club.
Of course, yeah.
And I think it's entirely understandable that each club and each club set of fans are going to fight for their own team and what's going to be best for their team.
100%. I had an email from somebody today that had a discussion over the letter and everything else, and they said, I completely get it. 2 questions, though, I have to ask you, Carlo. First of all, would that letter have been sent if there was no COVID-19 and you would have found yourself in the bottom and maybe either made it or not made it, safe or not safe? That's one question. And the other question is, even if you were to deduct points from Sheffield Wednesday and they end up being 4th from bottom, on a points per game basis, that still makes them safe because they had more points before all this started. So I think ultimately what I suppose, I don't know if that was in the letter, is looking ahead at the future, does there need to be some sort of regulatory body that deals with these infringers on an independent basis rather than leaving it to the members that are impacted by these decisions? It's really weird, isn't it? It's like me and Chris being, the steering committee of the Reds report, and then somebody complains about us, and then we're going to discuss it, and we're like, nah. Right.
That's what we do. That's what we do.
Yeah, but don't tell them.
Great. Thanks, guys.
It's timely, isn't it? It has to be timely. That's my opinion of it. I just feel like it has to be timely, and I feel like next season it's too late. But that's my opinion. What do I know, Adam?
Yeah, I think I've seen today. I'm sure I've seen today that there's an MP or a group of MPs that have put some points together around some new regulatory bodies, and I do think there needs to be some form of independent regulatory body that has more teeth and more structure and more whatever else that will give football that structure and enable it to be fairer and everything else. In terms of would we have seen Barnsley putting that letter out if we weren't in the situation we were? I think Barnsley probably would have challenged if it was clear that the procedures that are ongoing with the EFL and other clubs in the Championship hadn't have been concluded by the end of the season. I think Barnsley probably would have stuck up for that and would have talked about that anyway. I think any team that is in the bottom 3 that's about to go down would probably be mad not to. Because that is an opportunity for them to stay up. Barnsley said this week there was £6 million that they lost, £7 million by going down when obviously Bolton stayed up the other year. It'd be bigger this year. Yeah. This is why football is driven by the cash nowadays. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
And don't forget, even if the matches are played and we go down, we don't know what League One's going to look like next season. No. How many clubs are able to survive? There's a very much a focus on the top 2 tiers, Championship and Premier League, because that's where the money is. And you find yourself being relegated to a division that might not start in January. I mean, what's that going to mean to players, staff?
Well, there's talk of regionalisation as well across some of the lower leagues. One of the suggestions is that essentially there's League One, but then League Two and the National League become League 2 North and League 2 South, or whatever it is. Yeah. And I get some of the arguments for that, bigger attendances, less travelling time, greater rivalries. And that would help from a financial perspective. So there's been some interesting ideas, and football's got a fantastic opportunity here to really look at things and decide what's working, what's not, because there isn't going to be as much money in the game, you would have thought. Hopefully all the clubs can survive. There is enough money in football as a whole for no clubs to go out of business if football looks after its own, and I hope it does. And I get the arguments for and against. Why should Premier League teams bankroll a National League side that's not looked after their finances right, whereas there's teams like Barnsley, for example, that have tried to look after the finances right? Well, how's the fairness in that? Yeah. So I do get the various arguments. I just think there's enough money in football as a whole, and it's the product of football that's brought the cash and the riches, and how the Premier League marketed that to the world.
Yeah. Completely.
You're right, Carl.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I find this sort of conversation absolutely riveting, and I could do that all night. Obviously, we're not going to, because I think it's very easy to have your Barnsley shirt on and say it should not be point per game because that means we're going down. There's so much more behind it, and we're talking about. I remember, you'll remember and I'm sure you do well, Adam, Flitcroft in the Huddersfield dressing rooms after the draw, saying you've saved people's lives, you've saved people's jobs with what you've done today. And it is about the football. It is about the press conference, sitting there and commentating on the match for Hospital Radio or whatever we do. But we mustn't forget there's a huge group of people who earn their living and pay their mortgage and pay for their shopping because they work for Barnsley Football Club. And the first fan that always says to me, oh, it's not a business. No, it is. And it has to be able to afford wages to those people. Yeah. So
it's that coexisting point again. It's you can have both. It's a business, it's a game, it's both.
Yeah,
it's developed into both. Of course, it's a game, and we love the game, and I'd love it if all the decisions could be made on a game basis. But I think Sheffield United said the other week that they've got 600 staff in total at the club. Yeah. Barnsley will have a couple of hundred staff, I think, that will work for the club. They depend on this. And it's people at the end of the day. We start this by talking about mental health. That's people. That's people's lives. That's people's jobs. That's people's livelihoods. That's friends and relatives of them worrying about them because of that and the knock-on impact of it. So they're not mutually exclusive, all these things. Football is this gigantic beast that we love. We get frustrated. It's like a family member. It's like a brother or sister in a way. You love them, they frustrate you, they do whatever else, but they're constant. Football is something for me that it is part of my life. Yeah. It's a huge part of my life.
A tweet today, I don't know if you saw it, Chris. Andy Asquith, who's a big Barnsley fan, lives in Burton, so travels from Burton to Barnsley every single match day when the Reds are playing at home. Say, I've renewed my season ticket today. I don't know what the season ticket will look like. I don't know if I ever will be able to go, but I want to take that chance because that's where I meet my mates. That's where I go to the fan zone. That's where I go to the pub. Absolutely. And that's where I can relax and unwind. And therefore, I've decided to renew it. And I thought, actually, because that's what it means, isn't it? It's a job to some people, but for us, it's something we look forward to. It's something we meet up with mates. It's where we check in with like-minded people to make sure that they're all right.
Yeah, that's football. It's your outlet. It's the end of the week. It gives you it's a lot of structure. For a lot of people around the country and the world, it's their structure. The game's on a Tuesday and a Saturday, and they go to the pub, and then you're speaking to your mates, and you're meeting up, and you're chatting, and you're playing five-a-side. And my week entirely was structured around football. It's not at the moment. No. Things have changed quite a bit at the moment, but I'm sure it will. So we fingers crossed we can get something back. It'll be nice to have football back in some form.
Even behind closed doors on iFollow or something. To watch, the players in that shirt representing your town, your values, and the way I suppose that's something we will look forward to. And if we can't be there, then watching it is the next best thing, isn't it?
It's better than nothing, isn't it? It's better than nothing, which is what we've got at the minute. And as long as everybody's health's all right and there's nobody at risk, there's no problem with it. Somebody asked me about a week back, just like, hey, they always ask, I'm a massive football fan. And I always said, no, I'm a massive Barnsley fan. I'm not a fan of football. I'm a massive Barnsley fan. Well, that theory has been blown out of the water entirely during lockdown because I've realised how much fun. So, like, usually I do the podcast with Carlo on a Thursday, which we can't do, albeit we've been keeping this up. On a Saturday, he's obviously warming up for the football from 10 o'clock all the way until probably 6 o'clock when I have my last beer in the church house with my dad. And on a Sunday morning, I play football. On a Monday, straight after work, I drive to Oakwell and play with the media lads. Play there for an hour and a half. Then I drive straight from there, straight to Thomas Rotherham College. Play there for an hour and a half with previous colleagues. And then it's like, it just starts again. It's like Thursday again. So that's like half of my week gone. Do you know what I mean? And I say I'm a Barnsley fan. Well, I'm not really. I'm totally soaked into football. And at the minute, it's decimated my week entirely. Well, and even if I can get half an hour of that time back by watching Barnsley on any programme, BBC or Sky Sports, I will take it.
I need to go against you, Chris. This is your Twitter feed. Hold on. Chris Riddy heard their name ring around the stadium as fans of Barnsley celebrate winning the Premier Division. Chris Riddy has earned the respect of their peers after the Barnsley manager was named the 2036 English Premier Division Manager of the Year. Chris, Football is still ruling your life, mate.
I just want to point out, and you're going to love this, Adam. I have since won 4 Premier League titles with Barnsley, right? So I've won League One because I got relegated first season. Since then, I've won League One, which I also won the Paint Trophy or whatever it's called these days. I won the Championship, and I've won the Premiership 4 times and won Champions League, losing 2 Champions League finals, 4 FA Cups, Carlo, 3 League Cups. I'm trying to get on top of Ferguson. That's me. If I can get above Ferguson,
Chris, right, mate. We started talking from a mental health perspective. I'm suddenly a little bit concerned for you.
It's 2036, and Alex Ferguson is keeping him awake. It's
funny. We talk about routine. I've been getting up at 8 o'clock, taking the dog out. I've usually got a list of stuff to do around the house. And that's kind of my evening routine. So I get to 8 o'clock.
Sorry, my mum is ringing. I just need to take this call because I don't know why she's ringing. That's where you know it's live, isn't it?
See, we talked about routine before when you were last on, Adam. And I guess that's part of my routine. I like to have an hour and a half a Football Manager on an evening. Are you not tickled by a bit of Football Manager, Adam? Is it not your thing?
Absolutely. I've not got back into it now, but when I was late, sort of mid to late teens, Championship Manager ruled my life. Absolutely loved it. It's amazing when people that don't get it are like, how on earth can you play on that for hours? Who's days to it?
It's funny.
Used to pick Rushden and Diamonds quite a lot because they're always in the conference, but they got a massive budget. So you could pick Rushden and you could get them up through the division pretty easily because they got a big budget. So that was always a good one. Or you just pick the local teams and just try and get them up and take them up and everything else. But no, I'm not knocking the fact that you...
It's keeping me busy. It's keeping me busy. Right, Adam, as always, with every guest that we've had on recently, is your mum all right, Carlo?
Yeah, she just rang me to say she just got an email. Her new bike is ready to pick up on Saturday. So I thought I'll share it with you. Then you know why she's ringing me. Bless her. She's 82. My dad died 2 years ago. Email, she's all right with it. And there was an attachment and it was the invoice. I said, I don't know whether I should open it. I don't know if it's like that ham thing. I mean, spam, Mum. It's spam. Yeah, it's spam. So anyway, she's sorted. She's very happy.
That's good. Adam Oxley. Every guest that comes on this show now, at the end of it, we do a room 102 of football. So we're going to get rid of. I don't know if you did it last time. Did you do it last time?
Do it last time. Oh,
right.
Wow. Put me on spot with this.
It's all right. You've got time because I'm going to give you a few examples while you think. Okay. So we've had Rory Fallon on, and he wants rid of bad agents. We've had Martin Devaney on quite recently, Carlo.
Yes.
What did he say? Because I've got a very short-term memory.
He wants to keep VAR, but he wants a more instant sort of decision locally in the stadium rather than waiting for somebody in a call centre somewhere to have a look at it. So we've had Andrew Clark. Yeah, Andrew Clark for Barnsley, the media guy. He wants less wind because then he can have more fan zones and bigger gazebos, which is very important to us.
Andy Clark loves his big gazebos. He loves them.
Love a gazebo, yeah. I'm with it. Love a gazebo.
Each to their own. So, and we talked obviously a few mentioned refereeing. Jim O'Brien, the ex-Red, mentioned the fact that fans can give out abuse to players, but as a player, you're not allowed to give it back.
What surprise Jim O'Brien said that.
I think Jim O'Brien mentioned social media as well. I think he wanted rid of social media, didn't he?
Pandering to fans.
Pandering to fans on. So have you got enough time to think there, Adam? Have you got one?
Yeah, I'm gonna. To be honest, I'll probably ponder on this tonight, and then I'll barrage you both with like hundreds of things afterwards. But the first thing that's come to mind today is basically extortionate ticket prices.
Okay.
I would banish them entirely. I think yes, it's the lifeblood of football clubs, particularly down the leagues. But they said in the Premier League that essentially you could let all the fans in for free and you'd still make a profit in the Premier League. Paying 40, 50, 60, 70 quid to go and watch a game of football is ludicrous. Absolutely. It's still at heart a working class game, and it costs people a fortune to watch football. And I know that's why it's become a big business. But for me, extortionate ticket prices, bin them, get more fans in the stadiums, get better atmospheres, make it more affordable, and then football will live on. The problem is, if you price people out, it'll get less popular and the game won't carry on.
Yeah, there we go. It's not a sustainable model, is it?
No.
No.
For people,
No.
you know, this is what I'm saying about people having to relook. Football needs to relook at this. That is an aspect to it. Absolutely. People are not going to have as much money.
There we go.
Well, this is, and we didn't talk about that, but businesses that have been closed for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks, some of them, people that have bars that might not open till another 4 or 5 weeks. These people have season tickets and they won't have an opportunity to get one. So it's impacted in loads of ways. So, I don't need to discuss this with you, do we, Chris? Because I completely and utterly 100% agree with that.
100%.
It's not often we agree, but we do on this one. I'm there.
There we go.
My fist is there.
I think that's a natural end to the show. Carl van der Water, thanks for letting me join you on the Reds Report.
Well, you know, every now and then you deserve a treat.
I've been a good boy. Adam Oxley, as always, it is a real pleasure to have you. We will have to get my friend Andy on next time and we can have a discussion about who's better at football, you or him. Oh, that's interesting. I bet his fitness is better than you because he's into running game now, isn't he? He can do marathons and stuff.
Yeah, he can. He's running marathons now. His fitness is much. I tell you what, Andy's one of these kids that has gone to the two extremes of fitness over the many years that I've known him. He was an old housemate of mine from uni, so I've known him a long time. But he used to play in net and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, you know, I've got to back myself, haven't I?
What you're saying, Adam, is I'm not, but I like Andy more than Adam. No, I'm kidding. So what you're saying, Adam, is he is fit, but he runs in the wrong direction. He can run a lot, but he's not quite got the mentality you have. Is that what you're saying? I'm going to text him straight after, Adam.
I'll tell you what, it has to be. Andy Lloyd playing football is an experience. It is an experience for the fan and for the teammate, and I'll leave it at that.
Brilliant. Well, Adam, thank you very much for coming on, mate. We do appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, boys.
Go on, Carl.
Andy, Chris, you as well, but obviously Adam as well. Look after yourself. Challenging times. My advice to people have always been, talk to someone and tomorrow is another day. And when you wake up, it might just feel that little bit easier. A problem shared is a problem halved. And I think that's a good message to...
That's a nice way to end, isn't it? Spot on.
Adam, thank you very much. And hopefully we'll see you again soon at Oakwell.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Cheers.
Ta-ra.